Hey everyone, my name's Terrence. Look me up. Yeah, hate me. God. I stream a lot on this channel, so my information is pretty public nowadays. But anywho, just wanted to reply to a comment because I hate typing all this shit out. You might say, "Who the fuck?" I guess a lot of people do it nowadays, but seriously, who the fuck sits down and does a video or even an audio to reply to a comment on Reddit? Yeah, I made up. I'm a neckbeard, so all that shit going on. Total Reddit moment here, but I want to show you guys exactly what I'm replying to. And I'm not replying to this comment with the video for the sake of doing it for this one specific comment. I'm doing it because of what this person said and how often, as a black man, you hear that. So let me put this up on the screen on my phone. The gist is there's someone made a post on Reddit. Americans Reddit. What do you think about President Trump and El Salvador President Bukele, whatever his name is, refusing the Supreme Court's order to return Kilmar Abrego Garcia to the U.S.? Sorry, Mr. Kilmar, if I completely butchered your name. I hope you come back to American soil. Fuck Trump. Um, some people replied to that comment and said, "Man, I envy South Korea." Good. You know, in a lot of ways, we should envy South Korea. We should envy a lot of countries, and I'm saying that not because South Korea is so great, but I think envy in moderate amounts is good for us to learn and grow from each other. Of course, it gets chaotic when you don't keep it that simple, but that's not the point. Um, and I replied back to that person's comment. I was agreeing with them, and I was like, Koreans are just more united in general with each other, whereas here in America, because the guy was saying, why can't we oust President Trump the same way the Koreans ousted their most recent prime minister or president? Sorry, I forget. Um, president. And so I was like, the only thing Americans really can get together on is hating brown people or black people, whatever color you want to use, anything not white. Um, Somebody replied back. I'm not gonna say the person's name. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna cover it up. Can you read it? Here, let me see if I can do that. Hide their name. Says Americans much less racist and much more open to immigration. Excuse me on that one. I gotta laugh at that one for a split second because this motherfucker just said Americans are much less racist, far more open to immigration. Boy, okay. No, Americans are not less racist than Koreans. They're not. Plain and simple. And that's a sentiment. The reason I'm making this video is because not because it's one person, but you hear this sentiment a lot, especially as a black man. You hear this just the same sentiment a lot. Koreans are racist, and I think there is a nugget of truth in that, of course, based on xenophobia, because they were an extremely xenophobic country, just like Japan and most of East Asia for the longest. Understandable, but I don't think their version of flavor of racism is like what you see in America. And the reason that is because tiny history lesson here. American racism is institutionalized. So much so that people don't even realize what is racist because it's so normal. And a lot of times people know that the shit ain't right, but they still want to engage in the racist aspects of whatever institution because it benefits them. Or maybe they don't like the uncomfortable reality that just in some cases existing in a manner that they're comfortable with leads to misery and uncomfort for someone else. Ultimately, of course, racism in the American sense for sure doesn't benefit anyone except the rich. Yes, I said it. The rich are always to blame for things like racism. Any kind of division in the United States, in my opinion at least, could always be tracked back to the rich. Come on now. It always goes back to them, motherfuckers. Always dividing us, not letting us work together. And they've always used a version of racism to propagate that. You know what I mean? Like, let's go back into was it 1950s or 60s where they were like, no more Hispanics in America. They're taking their jobs. And whatever president was president at the time was like, okay, yeah, kick all the Hispanics out. We'll get a bunch of high schoolers out there to go work out there in the fields, out there in the boonies, picking strawberries and shit. It's going to be perfect. It'll help them build character. It's going to be amazing. It was like the wettest American dream ever. Once again, these niggas were brown. Kick their asses out. Fuck them. Totally not racist, right? Anyways, shit exploded in their face in less than 2 weeks. Those good old boy white kids did not like that shit whatsoever. They left those farms in droves and said, never again. Refuse to do this shit. peace the fuck out. And then they were like, okay, bring the Hispanics back. We just keep it on the DL, keep it on the DL gas. Notice I said farmers. It's always the motherfuckers with the money that make the decisions. They always work against their interests, realize that was a dumbass idea, and then come begging back like, oh, our bad, Bob. Bring the brown people back immediately. You ever seen this shit happen in Florida? Yeah. Anyways, my point is this: racism is baked into this country, and it's our one of our biggest issues. Definitely not the core issue. The core issue is going to be capitalism, in my opinion. And coming from a black family, born and raised in Alabama, where you see, or like you take my grandparents, for example, one of my grandparents lost an eye because he got beat by a bunch of good old white boys way back in the 1920s, 30s. Don't worry, my grandfather's dead. You ain't got to worry about him suffering no more. Um, totally not racist though. They were just beating him up because he looked at a white girl the wrong way. Oops, shit, my bad. That didn't happen either. They just wanted to beat his ass because he was black. They almost hung him too. Then you take my grandma on my father's side, she just didn't like white folks at all. They treated her like shit. She wasn't even black. That's the funniest part. She just had brown skin in Alabama, and they just hated her ass for it. Plain and simple. And that story and sentiment goes. I want to say far back. It does. It goes way back to the 1700s, early 1800s for sure. But let's not mistake that that's far back. I just said my grandparents. Shit, my mom and dad lived through desegregation. I'm almost 40, by the way. Let that soak in, though. When I said they lived through desegregation, the motherfuckers were like high schools when that shit happened, or at least 12 years old or something like that. They were watching the news when a little black girl was getting cursed out by all these old and very large Caucasian men and women that wanted to kill her and murder her and rape her. Notice they saying this to a little girl. That she had to get escorted into a school with an armed military guard. Some of y'all don't realize how recent that was, but my parents lived through that time period. That's how not far back it was. It wasn't all black and white. That was recent history. This is the kind of shit that motherfuckers say stupid shit on the internet. They just be talking out their ass about some, or maybe they done heard the wrong blogger or something like, oh, I'm a black guy. I went to South Korea and they wouldn't let me on the subway. The subway's probably packed. Nigga was just getting, no, you can't get on the subway, but he took it as racist. Maybe they listen to them motherfuckers. But typically what I see is always, no offense to you white folks out there. I love y'all. Big booty white girls are the best. But point being is that motherfuckers sometimes take things out of context, especially when they don't experience it themselves. And that all they see is just the one side, and they say, okay, the one black person said it, and 20 white folks said it, so it must be true. And trust me, let me get to the main point here. I was in the military. I spent 5 years in South Korea over the course of 7 years, I want to say. And of course, after I got the military, I still visited South Korea for shits and giggles because it was just a fun place to me. It was amazingly fun. I think it still is. I'm going there again probably next year if crazy shit will happen in America. But South Korea is just fun. Even as a black man, it was just fucking bonkers fun. And I remember when I first got there, every Caucasian person would say, oh, the Koreans are racist, bro. Watch out, bro. Brother, my brother. Yeah, bro. all of them racist. You might say, Terrence, you're being racist right now. You're mocking white people. I said, no. I'm just telling what happened. That's how motherfuckers been talking to me. You've been saying, if you think that right there is racist, imagine how it feels for motherfuckers to be talking to me like that, thinking that's how I talk. You see how I talk right now? Am I using the ebonics? Can I? I was even nerdier back then. Trust me. Nothing close to Ebonics. I even grew up in the ghetto just about. Actually, I grew up in the suburbs adjacent to the ghetto. That counts, right? Nope. Didn't think so. Anyways, I'm not Drake. No. Everyone's telling me this, specifically the Caucasian folks, and it was always funny to me because my mom was stationed in Korea too when she was in the army. She had a wonderful time in Korea, and this was way back in when was it, 1970s or 80s or some shit like that. Yeah, a black woman went over to Korea, had a blast. You know what she told me recently though? She said when she came back to America, she was scared. She wanted to fly directly back into Birmingham, but they were like, "Oh, sorry, layover in Mississippi." And she was had a layover in a small podunk ass town. My mom was so terrified that she was like, "Oh, this is one of those towns, one of those sundown towns where you better not be black outside." This is an important thing I'm noting for now. Those same sundown towns that still exist in America today. that she had a layover in one of those. She went straight to a hotel, didn't leave that bitch until the very next day, and she went straight to Birmingham. She was terrified. She was a military member at the time who just left South Korea where she had a blast. She didn't encounter that same racism. She probably almost forgot how it felt. Another key point to remember. Getting back to that later. So, anyways, I spent 5 years in Korea. Basically, over like I said, 7 year, more like a 10 year period. So about a year here, year and a half here, another year, almost 2 months, almost 2 years in another time frame. And in between, I was in 2.5 years in Okinawa, Japan, and about 2-ish years in Valdosta, Georgia. Um, I only went to America once, basically, in that 10 some ish time frame. My point being is this: when I was over there, I never dealt with racism from Koreans. I never did. That's the point I'm getting at here. I had a blast. And for the record, when I was in Korea, I didn't just stay around the military bases. I like got out there. I went no matter the time of day or night, I would be out there in the rice paddies, walking through them motherfuckers. Yeah, even at 3 o'clock in the morning, I was like drunk off my ass. I was just all over the place. I went to let me pull up a map because I can't remember half the damn cities. Hold on. I can say Dongdaejeon, and y'all were like, nigga, Dongda what? Dong these nuts. Hold on, let me put the Google Maps. We'll see what the Dongdaejeons and all this other shit. All these great cities, honestly. And like, I'm being dead fucking serious, man. I was absolutely in the boonies all hours of the day and night. And I can count how many times I've been called the word or the Korean insult for nigger twice. Of course, I learned that word immediately. Everybody's telling me Koreans are racist. I was like, well, I want to make sure I know when the motherfuckers call me a bad word just in case. All right. Gwangju, been there plenty of times. Mokpo, been there even. Oh, I can't even pronounce it. Daegu for sure. Busan, definitely. Ulsan, I didn't go to Pohang. Seoul, I was all over Seoul. You know, Itaewon and all that shit. I was just all over the goddamn place. And everything between Seoul and Osan. I was all over that motherfucking place. When I meant Osan Air Base, by the way. So Pyeongtaek in general. Cheonan, Sejong, Seosan, Ansan, Incheon. I was all over Korea all the time. It was just a blast. Everywhere I would go, I was, what makes Korean racism different than American racism is first off, I never got hassled by the police. Ever. Not once. You might say, well, maybe it's because you're military. They don't know that, especially when I got a goatee like this or something like that. You got to remember, I still went over there when I got out the military at least 3 more times. And I was looking rougher than this shit right here. Full goatee, big ass afro. Them niggas didn't knew I was in the military. They were like, oh, he's totally not military. Never bothered me. I could be in the most podunk, small ass town. I never had somebody walk up to me and tell me something. You better get out of here, nigger, or otherwise, or you might not wake up tomorrow. I never had no shit like that. I never had no fear of being arrested just for being black in the wrong time of the day. None of that shit. None of that ever happened to me when I was over there. I could walk into any establishment. I don't care if I spoke a zero Hangul. I spoke a little bit. I spoke enough for conversation, by the way. I forgot all that shit now. And a lot of times before I learned Hangul to that degree, I was only speaking English and fucking doing hand signals and saying, get some drinks. And then a fucking dude with a dick came out. I was like, you want to suck my dick? I was like, you speak perfect English, bro. No, I don't want to suck your dick. But that's like, none of the bad stuff happened that all these people were warning me about. Nothing right. And then you had some motherfuckers been like, Terrence, the Korean girls don't like black men. Not in my experience. They love it. They love all the penis like any woman would. Now you might say, you did say there was a smidge of racism, right, Terrence? Yeah. I say a smidge. Because Koreans they weren't just racist to black people for the sake of being racist. Korea was still coming out of its xenophobic phase. So when they didn't like someone, didn't like someone because of their nationality, not because of their skin color necessarily. So when you would have somebody that's like, I could understand some of what they were saying when they decided to speak in Hangul and didn't think I would understand what they were saying. This fucking dumbass American over here, because I was probably being a dumbass. No Americans in here. They'll say it to a white dude too. And it was kind of funny because a lot of the white dudes didn't catch that stuff because they weren't used to racism in any form or ignorance or discrimination. They weren't just used to it. And they would say, "No, I'm going in here. He can't tell me I can't go in here." I was like, "Dude, you go in there acting like that, they're gonna arrest your ass. Sure fucking enough. Police right down the corner, see that shit going on. Nightsticks out, ready to bust his ass up." It's not like they saw a white dude and a black dude standing together. The white dude's causing a scene. They would directly went to the black dude. That's what would happen in America. Should a black dude can call the police on anyone else, no matter the skin tone. Yeah, that's a risky decision right there as a black man in America. Very risky decision, especially these days. Well, they went straight for the dude causing the problem and was ready to bust his ass up. I had to intervene to save his ass. That's the kind of racism I'm talking about. Okay, let's get to something a little bit more. Something I got another story for you. Something a little bit more concrete. So I remember one time I took the subway all the time. That's how you get around Korea, by the way. If you ever travel to Korea, subways, not the monorail, the fucking the high speed train, you gotta use and abuse that, man. That's just too cheap to not use. Don't be taking the taxis. And you take the buses. That's cool if you want to go for a relaxing trip. That takes forever. We go from fucking Gunsan to goddamn the east side of the country over there in Busan and shit. But no, so two scenarios, and they both play out the same, except one of them personally involved me and the other one didn't. And this is when I learned my lesson that it's not about racism, it's about learning cultural norms. So this one time, me and my homeboy going to Busan. I told you it's coming up. We were taking a bus. For some reason, we were scared of the train at this point. And this was like early into my Korea adventures, so like my first year, 2 years over there. Taking a train, taking a bus to Busan. We heard Busan was a party town. And so we're on the bus and we're acting the fools. We're drunk and just acting like clowns. We're both black dudes, and we were both being loud. For the record, when you go to Korea, that's kind of a social taboo. Don't be on public transportation or in public in general acting like a dumbass. That is probably some advice you should take to heart with you, no matter where you're at. And this Russian show, a lot of the Koreans were giving us nasty stares. Like, and we kind of we took it personally. We said, "Oh, see, this is the racism they were talking about. I found the racism." And then finally, this Russian chick turned around. She said, "Shut the fuck up, y'all being too fucking loud." And that's when it hit me. I was like, maybe it wasn't racist. Maybe we were just being dumbasses. And we required the rest of the bus ride. I mean, we were chit chatting here and there, but we were not the way we were. That's probably the only moment, personally at least, that I could maybe eschew as being racist. But as I just said, it wasn't racism. I was acting like a dumbass, so I stopped. Oh well. Second time, this was my second tour of duty. Actually, I was a lot more well versed in Korean culture, so I knew how to act on buses and trains and everything else. Shit, sometimes I correct Korean people. They chill the fuck out, sit down, chill out, man. But I remember there was I was going from basically Osan Air Base or the subway station from there to I want to say it was like somewhere Pyeongtaek, maybe Osan. So it wasn't too far. It wasn't too far of a distance to travel by the subway at least. And there was these army dudes and army people. There was a few chicks and some dudes in there. It was a moderate mix of mostly black folks and maybe two white dudes or something like that. Moderate mix. Anyways, they were just cackling it up, being loud and alley, and somebody said, "You need to be quiet." And it's a Korean dude. And they said, "Hell no, man, we ain't being quiet." And I had to actually stand up and pull a rank on them. Because I assumed they were all like E0s to E4s or something like that. I was Air Force, by the way. These niggas were armies. I didn't care about their rank back then. And I was like, "Yo, y'all need to chill the fuck out and be quiet. Straight up, y'all making us all look bad with this, with talking like this." They wanted to throw some attitude, and they were like, "Oh, my bad." One person I think hit me with the "Who the fuck are you?" And I was like, "I'm Sergeant Askew, right here, homie." One white common access card back then. For the record, this wasn't too long ago. This is like between the time frame of 2007 and like 2013, and then between 2007 to like 2015. So not too long ago. That's like 8 years. I know. My math's not the best. And yeah. So I corrected them then, and that's whatever. That was an isolated incident. No one clapped. No one did that shit. They were just like, "Okay, situation's over. He handled it. They gone back." However, you might say that's not really racist, is it? No, they were just being stupid. All of them, no matter their skin color. If anything, they told the dumbass Americans to shut the fuck up. And as a matter of fact, let me touch on it one more time. I've acted a fool many, many other times, usually in places where you can get away with acting a fool, like a drinking district, an international drinking district, especially. I remember this one time I beat this Korean dude in pool, and I was just beating, I was just whooping ass that night. I was kicking everybody's ass in pool. I was like, yeah, I'm the fucking G. You nobody can beat me. I beat this Korean dude, and I started talking shit again. He was like, fuck you, you stupid fucking American. And I was like, yikes, this nigga's mad. And then I thought about it, I was like, wait, this nigga just called me American? I was like, this is the first time I think I've ever been anywhere. And somebody called me American like that. Notice when I tell the story, of course I could be lying or making this up. So grain of salt as usual with any story you hear online. But this motherfucker straight up called me a dumbass American. Now, if this was in Alabama, Mississippi, fuck, I'm anywhere, this motherfucker would be like, fuck you, you stupid nigger, or whatever fucking stupid ass, racist ass word they would say. It's almost immediate they go to that word in this country too. Almost like that. Yep, N word right there, immediately. 100%. And Korea. I went straight for the American word. He didn't even call me the N word or Korean. I mean, he wanted to make sure I knew I was a stupid American. Okay, fair. You know, I was still with your ass in pool though. And then I went out and went drinking with the rest of the night. And then everybody clapped. No, nobody clapped. We were in the middle of the road at this point. We were already hanging out with each other because I was falling and we were having a good time. So you might be saying, okay, Terrence, that's not really the best examples of racism. That one guy on Reddit you were just talking about, he said there's racism. He had to have gotten that from somewhere. I was like, I do have a very concrete example of when I encountered extreme racism in outside of America that was equivalent to American racism in Korea, of course. So this is I'm gonna spare you the gory long details, but long story short, me and this Ukrainian chick were hanging out like for the past at this point like 2 or 3 days. We were just having a good time in Seoul. If you've never been to Seoul, there's a district, a really popular district with tourists and foreigners in general. It's called Itaewon. Itaewon is a huge drinking district, nightlife, clubs, bars, restaurants, the whole nine. It's just a good fucking time there, man. It's an amazing time. I always go there because why the fuck not? It's a good time. Well, why you want to go to a place that's a good time? I'm just seeing all the touristy shit anyway. So we were having a good time and we eventually ended up in this Irish bar. I think it was actually called the Irish Bar. If anyone's been to Itaewon, it's on the main strip. Like if Yongsan Garrison is behind you, so like if you're on the main strip and you look to your right, Yongsan Garrison. Okay, your military right. Anyways, Yongsan Garrison is going to be behind you, and it's not this bar is not too far away from Yongsan. It's probably about a mile and a half to 2 miles down the road on the left hand side, and it was upstairs. It was like a legitimate Irish bar. All the bartenders, they were Irish. Everybody was happy and Irish and drunk and ready to fight everybody. And I remember we're just in the back playing pool, and I heard a commotion in the front. I wasn't paying attention. I was me and old girl just having a good time. And somebody was yelling, like, "Fuck you, motherfucker! Fuck him and fuck you!" And then these are clearly Americans because they were throwing fucks around like crazy. And so I go up to the bar. I'm like, "What the fuck just happened?" We were talking to we had hung out with one of the bartenders previous in that week. It was a weekend. In that weekend. And so we were like, what the fuck happened? And I was like, man, fuck those racist motherfuckers. And I got a good look at who they were at this point because they were being kicked out as I walked towards the bar to see what the commotion was about. And I was like, fuck those racist motherfuckers. I was like, what the fuck's going on? And it's like, they came in here and they saw you and they said, look at this fucking nigger. What is he doing in here? And boom, hey, Reddit guy, everyone else, that's your racism right there. There's a racist story right there. And I was kind of impressed, to be honest, that somebody was that bold in the middle of Korea to be that way. But at the same time, I was kind of like, I even told him, I was like, that's okay, man. They're Americans. I'm used to it. And I was like, yeah, you shouldn't have to deal with it. I was like, yeah, I know, but when I go back to America, I'm gonna deal with it again anyways. Everybody kind of like a somber, then we're like, oh, anyways, back to drinking. But it was true. It was a group of a bunch of white folks, white Americans. And surprisingly, the guy that was saying the N-word the most and was the most irate that how dare a black man be in an Irish bar, that was one of the things he said on the way out the door, was Hispanic. It wasn't even the white dude, it was a Hispanic dude. See, Americans are so racist, especially towards black folks, that even the motherfuckers that get the racism from the white folks act like them towards the black folks, aka Hispanics are just as racist as the black folks. And I'm sure if a Hispanic person watching is like, oh, y'all niggers are the same. I was like, what do you say? Anyways, I'm pretty sure they'll say we're just the same. Black people can be racist too. Da 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 da. I'm like, you guys aren't hearing me here with the racism. Racism is an institution first. It's baked into this country by the rich. Second, and the people that benefit from it have a skin color usually associated as being opposite of what mine is. Third, but ultimately, it benefits no one in this country except for the rich. Ultimately, can black people be racist? I guess, but it doesn't benefit us when we're racist. It just doesn't. Hispanics can be racist, clearly, as I just told in my story. Definitely doesn't benefit them anymore unless there's another black person there, then maybe, and the cops happen to be Hispanic, maybe it'll benefit them. My point being this discussion on the internet and all these bloggers and whomever else is saying that Korea is the most racist country ever. And I would take that with a serious grain of salt. And I need to put this, I wanted to do this little quick live stream to put this shit out here so that everyone can know there's at least one black person, two, because I said my mom too, that no, the only racism I experienced was from other Americans. And to be honest, that's the only one I can remember. There are plenty more. I'm pretty sure in the back of my head, I can't remember the gory details, unfortunately. So I'm not going to sit here and build a story out of like a few details. But yeah, only Americans. Only Americans is when I was in Korea did I experience the same level of racism that you would see in America in Korea. Now, if we're talking about Japan, I'm sorry, Japanese folks. I love y'all to death. Y'all make some amazing porn, anime. Oh, I'm sorry, anime, video games, and electronics, and you're great at math. Okay, I'm being silly. I love my Japanese folks. I really, really do. Man, y'all really racist as fuck. Holy shit. Y'all can make some Americans blush because y'all racist to white folks too. Shame on y'all for that. Some of y'all, a lot of y'all. As long as you don't stay in that country, they're like, okay, you passing through, whatever, weirdo. Second you decide to stay there, the motherfuckers be like ready to fucking roll that shit out the mat. They didn't realize you speak Japanese. They say, oh, my bad. I didn't mean to say that shit. Yeah, you did. You said it. You didn't think I would understand what the fuck you were saying, but you did. That was disgusting. Fucking calling me Coco Gin and shit. Fucking stupid ass Coco Gin. Yada yada yada. Anyways, this near 30-minute video literally is for that. I'm gonna post it under that dude's comment too. I'm posting on like Black Folks Reddit or some shit like that. I don't fucking know. Nobody else is gonna watch this shit. I just want to get that shit out there. Yeah, Korea is racist, sure, whatever, buddies. Once again, as a black man, no, not really, or nowhere near as bad as you see in America. Like I said, I could walk down anywhere, bumfuck nowhere town of Korea and never get threatened by anybody to not be there. Walk into any restaurant and not sit here and be like, we don't like your kind here, or here, it's Caucasian special. You don't fit our dress codes. Nigga, what? This is a fine dining establishment. You don't fit our dress codes. We need a button-up shirt early. I remember that shit happened to me in Alabama once. I went straight to my car. I had took my actual button-up off because it was just hot. It was hot and humid. Go figure, it's Alabama. I went right back to the door and put that shit on. They looked at me like they were mad. They were mad as fuck when I came back with that sweatshirt. And I was like, hey, I'm not sweatshirt, but my button-up. They're like, hey, that's not what you're supposed to do. I was like, I'm just fucking with y'all. I want to go to this racist ass place anyway. Peace. So, anyways, yeah, you don't see American level racism in Korea. Talking to you, Reddit user, whatever your fucking name is. Oh, in extreme. Uh-huh. Oh, it says your stream will end immediately. Wait, what did it say? Oh, it says I won't have. Hopefully it saves it. Will it save it? I hope so. Yoink, I'm hitting end stream. Bye.